Welcome back, everybody. We're going to be talking about the BCM 14.5 MCMR today, and I know I'm a little bit late to the party when it comes to BCM. All right, so the 14.5 MCMR, so in all of its glory. Now this is what some would consider one of the best rifles in its class, or one of the best rifles even slightly above its class, or into that next over $2,000 price category. Don't let that scare you off, because we're gonna talk about price here in just a minute, and I think you're gonna like it. Now for me, this is the first full BCM that I have owned, but I've had BCM uppers before. I've of course used their furniture, from their stocks, their grips, their trigger guards, and several other small pieces like their QD sling attachments. So BCM is no stranger to me. This is just the first one I went out and purchased to keep around. And what kind of made me make the decision to actually buy one was when I was rebuilding my first rifle purchase, which was my Bushmaster right here, circa like 2006, 2007. This was the first rifle I was able to build. Let's hear it from my Wyndham, Maine fans down in the comments, but she was tired and old. So one of the parts that I chose was that 15-inch MCMR rail. After seeing that, installing it, the quality, the durability, I knew I was gonna go out and buy a BCM rifle. And if you wanna see that old dog come back to life, I'll have that rebuild video coming up real soon, and the original video is linked down below if you wanna see how worn out and tired that thing was. So before we get into the specs on this and the range footage, I wanna talk about the price first. I know that's kind of backwards, but it really does mean a lot when it comes to this rifle, specifically where it fits in comparison to others. And some of those others we're going to talk about are like Aero Precision, maybe some Ballistic Advantage, and definitely Daniel Defense. Now, I picked this specific one up for $1,255. It was on sale, so $1,255 plus tax, shipping, transfer fees, all that stuff. Generally, I've seen them right around the $1,400 to $1,500 mark, so we're talking about that, you know, well under sub $2,000 gun is what we're really going to talk about today. And again, specifically comparing it to some of the other big names I think all of us out there are aware of. And I know some people are already losing it, panties are in a bunch, talking about Daniel Defense forever. And I know it, I love me some Daniel Defense too. Feel free to light it up in the comments and let us all know how good your Mark 18 or whatever is, because I love mine too. And in case you're curious, I am not sponsored, nor did BCM or Daniel Defense or Aero give me anything for free. I don't have a dog in the fight between manufacturer to manufacturer. I'm just a guy that's got to do some pretty cool things in life and got to test a lot of weapon systems, from crew serve stuff to anti-tank stuff to other things, which has been a lot of fun throughout the careers I've had. So either company you decide to go with in the end is completely up to you. We will get into the specs on this thing and then talk about the range performance, the feel, all that stuff that you want to know. So the 14.5 MCMR is the version today. So that is a 14.5-inch barrel with a pin and welded muzzle device out on the front. So you have an overall length of 16 or greater. It is a 5.56 chambering on the barrel, made out of 4150 chromoly vanadium, which I think we all know is a great material. That is that machine gun style steel that you're going to want for that high rate of fire. And that is going to be chrome lined, so it's going to give you the ultimate durability up in that chamber. It's going to have a 1-in-7 twist rate and a mid-length gas system. So if you don't know, there's a pistol, carbine, mid-length, and rifle-length gas system. The shorter you go, generally the gassier it can get and the more powerful it can feel. Whereas the longer you go, it feels softer under the recoil impulse. That mid-length is right in the middle. The rail on this specific version is the 13 MCMR, so the M-LOK version of this. They have longer versions out there if you are into it for the longer barreled models. And it's going to give you anti-rotation tabs up there, so you don't have to worry about this thing shifting zero on your iron sights or anything you have out on the front. The upper and the lower here are going to be machined out of that 7075 T6 aluminum, which I think we all know is very good stuff and going to do everything you need. The bolt and carrier group are Carpenter 158 steel, which I'm sure most of you have probably heard of. That is extremely durable stuff, and the extractor is going to be made out of tool steel, so it's going to eat the brass all day long, and it'll chew through the steel for you people that want to run steel in your AR. And a little bit about that bolt testing. This is not only high pressure tested, but magnetic particle inspected. Now, if you don't know what that means, high pressure testing is a proof round that overpressures that basically and gives it a recoil impulse that would feel like a donkey kicking you in the nuts. Then they magnetic particle inspect it, which for my engine people is much like magnafluxing an engine block when you're rebuilding it, so you can see any tiny imperfection or crack in it. Now, MPI, magnetic particle inspection, is gonna do 99.999% of what us are gonna need out there. If you wanna run crazy rates of fire, maybe full auto stuff, or you're talking about a work rifle that's gonna see some horrific use in environments, high pressure testing is going to ensure that durability. Now, if it's been high pressure tested, it will always be magnetic particle inspected, or should be, but not the opposite. And finishing out that bolt and carrier group, they use grade 8 hardware on that gas key, and it has been properly staked. Getting down into the bang switch, this is BCM's labeled either NP3 or a version of NP3 style coating on there on that mil-spec trigger. And we're gonna come back to that because it's definitely a little bit different. On the furniture, you're gonna have the BCM stuff that a lot of people love out there, from their stocks to their pistol grip to that extended trigger guard. And you will get an extended single-sided, not ambi charging handle on there, but it's gonna do everything you need it to do and not be overly bulky. It'll come with one section of pick rail for that M-lock up there. You'll get a rear QD plate and a QD attachment point for the rail, so you can run single point, double point, whatever type of sling you want to run, you can do it. I know, that's a heck of a package, especially for the price point that we already talked about. Let's talk about the performance and the overall feel of this thing. And I want you guys to think back to my original Daniel Defense video. If you haven't seen that on my Daniel Defense DDM4 V7, I think that was the LE version that I got a hold of somehow. I want you to remember that recoil impulse and the trigger on that thing when we talk about the BCM. So starting with the feels here, as I like to say, everything from the stock to the pistol grip, BCM is well known for not only making some of the most durable furniture for your rifle out there, but it's quite nice, very smooth, feels quite good, and it gives you those good angles, especially on the wrist rather than that A2 style grip, and then that nice little SOP mod style bulge on the side to get a very good cheek weld out there, all the way out through that rail. So that rail, not only the thickness of it, it's just right. So it's not a full thick quad rail. It's a little bit thinner and closer to that barrel, but not so close that it's going to overheat your hand where you have to wear gloves when you are running this thing very hard. At one point, I got her a smoking, like you can see here. And then all the controls from the bolt release to the safety, of course that trigger, which we're going to talk more about, were very smooth and definitely well refined in a mil-spec style. Getting into the meat and potatoes of how this performs on the range, talking about that recoil impulse, I have to say, comparing this to the Daniel Defense and some Arrow stuff and some Ballistic Advantage stuff and other rifles in that like 1500-ish, maybe a little over, maybe a little under category, this thing recoils exceptionally soft. Now that is going to be for a couple of different reasons. The gas port on the barrel is likely not oversized. They've used a really good muzzle device here, better than the standard A2 birdcage. That mid-length gas system combined with the heavy buffer in there. And if you actually look at the ejection pattern here, it is right on the low end of being perfectly ejected. As I break this thing in, wear it in, it's going to have a very reliable and extremely soft shooting pattern throughout the rifle's life until I blow that barrel out, because it will loosen up with time as you clean it more, fire it more, use more good high pressure ammo. And that ejection pattern and that recoil impulse are gonna stay nice and soft right where we want them. The performance out there was definitely better than I expected, not only on the feel of it overall, the recoil impulse, but definitely the trigger. So this is Bravo Company's own in-house trigger. It's got their little star design on it. It's been coated with, I don't know if it's NP3 or nickel boron or what version of that coating there is. I will say, and I think most of you know, I like to run aftermarket triggers. I like to run specifically the Blackout Defense Zero trigger because that thing is a beast. This is a mil-spec trigger that I can live with. I was able from round 1 to round 500 out there, run this thing dang near as fast as an aftermarket trigger. It's definitely not the lightest out there. It pulled right at about 5 pounds every time, but the feel of it, the take up and the reset and the speed which I can run it at are probably one of the best drop-in mil-spec style triggers without having to buy like an ALG or a Geisley or something like that. So well done on that trigger, whoever cleaned the burrs off of it. One of the things I've always told people about quality is this thing is going to tell you a lot about what you need to know about how it was put together in the machining by the first couple pulls of that charging handle. So as you pull that, how smooth is it? How much noise does it make? How gritty is it? And I have to say, from the first couple pulls out there, I knew this was probably going to be a very good experience out on the range. So what really sets the BCM apart from some of those other big names that we probably know out there in the market or other ones in this price point? There are going to be several items that do that for me, and that's first going to be the quality control. So my understanding is anything that comes into BCM, as far as parts they don't make in-house, it's a 1-for-1 quality control inspection. And then their rifles are all 1-for-1 quality inspected. That's really, really good because quality control inspections are where a lot of companies fall apart because it's very time intensive, and I think we all know time equals money. And number 2 is going to be that overall build of this thing. Everything from the parts they chose to the materials they chose for those parts. That S7 tool steel, Carpenter 158, all of those good things. They are making the most durable mil-spec style rifle. That's their mission. That's what they want to achieve. They're not trying to give you SLR sexy looks. They want to build you a battle rifle. And there are a couple of extras, not only in what we get, but how this thing was made that really kind of set it apart. That's going to be stuff like having that better muzzle device, the QD attachment points on there, extended trigger guard, having that piece of pick rail to get you started for your accessories that these come with, and the attention to detail on how this thing was built, from the quality of the materials to the gas key staking to the castle nut staking, and all of those little touches that let you know when this thing was built, they built it for battle. All right, so that was a lot of good stuff, and this isn't a puff piece. So did I have a problem? Did I find something I don't like? Or is there something that I would absolutely change? Yes, so 0 problems functionality-wise. The thing is awesome for that purpose. The one thing I would change is you gave me everything except you gave me a 90-degree mil-spec style safety. And I know they're building a mil-spec style rifle here, but 45-degree ambi, that's what I love. I think that's what a lot of us out there love. Even if you don't love the 45 degrees, you love an ambi because it just opens up options for you. I would have loved to have seen that, or something like a Radian, or maybe BCM builds their own or uses another version of something like that. I would have loved to have seen that, and I think coming in at the price point it is with that would really just be kind of the cherry on the top of the pie. As far as anything else, I think if I nitpick any further than that, I'm just pretty much being an a-hole at that point. So our overall value here, that price category we talked about, that right around 1,500, definitely under 2,000. Daniel Defense, you know, BCM, Aero Precision full build, something like that. Where do we fit in on this rifle? And I have to say, for what you're getting, especially if you can find it on the sale that I did, I don't think you're gonna beat it. And I think you'd be doing yourself a disservice if you didn't check into one. Should you be looking for a new rifle, your first rifle, or even your 15th? It doesn't matter, have as many as you want. I'm all for that because I have plenty as well. I know that's hard to hear for some people, some of my PSA guys that think it's just as good as my Knights Armorman or Daniel Defense, and some of my Daniel Defense guys that think that that's the best thing since sliced bread. I know I love those all too. They all have specific purposes. But if you are looking for a proven rifle that you can use for work, hardcore use, I think this is really one to look at, especially for what you're getting overall at that price. But I'm super curious to know what your thoughts are in the comments. Do you love it? Do you hate it? Or do you just love something else so much you can't love another? Because I think we've all been there too. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with liking what you like. But I know my Daniel Defense fans are probably going to chime in the comments. So if you guys want to support the channel, you can check out the Patreon. You can use any of the links down below. If you want to check out any of the stuff we saw or talked about today, be the first link in the description and the first link pinned in the comments. You guys get on the range, have some fun. Remember, if you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. I will see you guys on the next one.